Hello, and welcome to the Powder Room, where we discover the message within our messes. I am your host, Ivy Ashley. In today's episode, we are diving into the murky waters of modern dating by continuing our discussion on the pee in the dating pool part 2. Now, that means if you did not hear part 1, I need you to pause this episode right now and go back and listen to that first part because I don't want you to miss any of the goodness that I shared on that episode. And this is truly a continuation of that discussion. So make sure you go back and listen to it so you can be all up to speed and be ready to get what I'm going to share today. Now, from that episode, we discussed several things that make dating today so difficult and also the various types of pools or places to meet a potential partner. So make sure you get that information. Today, though, we are diving in to talk about exactly what this pee is that's in the dating pool. And to not hold up any longer, let's get into it. So the pee in the dating pool are the red flags, bad behavior, and low effort attitudes that people bring into the dating scene, making it feel contaminated. I believe these are behaviors that hinder us from identifying, connecting, and creating healthy connections. Now, these are things that I believe are very noticeable if you have your eyes open and your antennas up when you are entering some of these dating pools. So you can't be going into these situations blind. You have to be able to be alert so you won't get got. And I know that was terrible English from an English major, but I bet you understood what I mean when I said that, right? So let's talk about some of these behaviors that are the pee in the dating pool, or that is the pee in the dating pool. I'm just crazy today. So the very first one is ghosting. And ghosting is when someone suddenly disappears without explanation. And I have to say, guys, that I feel like ghosting is so freaking immature. And yes, I had to say immature like that because that's how I feel. I mean, I just don't understand what's so difficult about telling someone that you are no longer interested in them instead of just poof, be gone. And I've had it happen to me several times. I don't know, that says something about me, but I'm continuing to be a work in progress. I have had that to happen to me. And, for the most part, I really didn't care, but there was one particular scenario that I'm going to share with you that I was like in total shock. So about 3 years ago, I met a guy, and we'll call him Ken for the sake of privacy. His name is Ken. And we met on Plenty of Fish, POF, around November of that year. And so right off the bat, when I saw Mr. Ken, he was B squared. And if you know me, you know what B squared is. B squared is my vice, and that is for a man to be bald and bearded. So I was instantly attracted to Mr. Ken. But to go beyond that, the conversations were great. He made me laugh. We made each other laugh. We had a good time when we hung out. and it was awesome. And so, in the midst of us getting to know each other, I shared with him that the holidays are not great for me around Christmas time because in December 2019, my mom passed 2 days before Christmas. So, typically, I try to spend the holidays with my family, but this particular year, I was going to be in Charlotte. So he was aware of this situation. I had let him know that I was going to be spending it with my girlfriend and her husband. So the day before Christmas Eve, we met up for brunch, had a really good time because he told me that he was not going to be able to spend Christmas with me because he was going to be with his children, which I totally understand. So on Christmas Day, I cooked some wings, took it over to my girlfriend's house, got to her house, and she was like, Ivy, I'll take the wings. Come on, go, let's sit at the table. And I was like, okay. So I go sit at the table, and as I sit at the table, I noticed this huge bouquet of calla lilies. And calla lilies are my favorite flower. I mean, I absolutely love them. They're so elegant. And I was like, what's going on? I'm looking at them like, I didn't tell y'all this was my favorite flower. How y'all know this? And then I said, we didn't say what we were exchanging gifts. What's going on? And so she was like, Ivy, look. And so I look, and next to the bouquet of flowers, there were two greeting cards and a stuffed animal. And I am just like super confused. And my girl Doris, shout out Doris, she says, open your cards. And so when I open one of the cards, the first thing I want to know is who in the heck this is from. And I look down and it's from Ken. And I'm reading the cards and what he's saying in the cards. And in my mind, I'm just like, this cannot be real. And so pretty much he's saying, I couldn't be there with you today, but I wanted you to feel my presence and let you know that I heard you. And I know today is, really emotional for you, but I wanted, to do something special. In the other card, he was like, I'm enjoying this journey and us, getting to know each other. And I can't wait to see, what the future holds. I mean, super sweet, super intentional, super kind. And I was just like floored. So I put the cards down. I'm looking at my girl and her husband, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. You have got to be kidding me. So, yes, I was waterworks all over the place. And then I'm like, wait a minute. How did this happen? Well, needless to say, when we first started talking, Ken told me that he had stalked my Instagram page and saw a picture with me and my girl. And he was like, oh, I know her. She's real cool with my cousin. And so, long story short, Ken reaches out to his cousin, lets her know what he wants to do, and she puts him in contact with my girl Doris. And he tells her, hey, I've been, talking to Ivy, and, she shared this with me, and I really want to do something special, with her or for her. And I want to know if this is okay. And mind you, I hadn't even shared with Doris or her husband that I was even talking to this guy, because I kind of wanted to keep things quiet and I wasn't sure where things were going to go at that time. So, and then he told her, hey, I know you're married. I'm good to clear this with your husband because I don't want to, step over my bounds with the man of the house. And he did that. And just to know, um, he went through all of those loops. And then before we had brunch that Saturday, he was over to their house dropping things off and having a conversation, with my guy, Jeff, telling him, I know, we haven't been talking long, but I really think she may be the one. I mean, everything just seemed so freaking perfect. And then 2.5 weeks or so later, poof, ghost, Casper. I heard nothing from this dude, and I was just so taken aback because things seemed like it was going so perfect. And then just to have him, disappear without notice, I mean, it took the wind out of me. And, I'm being a woman, thinking worst case scenario, oh my God, he probably on the side of the road in the ditch, or he got arrested, or he in the ER. Girl, no, he not. He fine. He breathing. He just don't want to talk to you. And so he ghosted me. But like ghosts do, he reappeared. And when he came back 3 or 4 months later, trying to explain to me, and really the explanation he gave me was not a good explanation. He said he felt like the weight of the world was on his shoulders and he was just going through so much. And I'm like, you couldn't just say that. It was just so, and I mean, I really, really, really like this dude. So I did try, to work things out. But sometimes you just need to let a ghost be a ghost, respect the dead, and let them stay buried. And I will say that if this interaction didn't teach me anything else, it taught me that I do not need closure to move on. And sometimes I think we as women use closure as a way to stay emotionally connected to someone we still care about. But honey, listen, if this person has shown you who they are, Maya Angelou told us time and time again, believe them. You do not need closure to move on. Just move on. And I know I spent a whole lot of time talking about ghosting, but I just felt like I needed to share that story so that, hopefully it will help somebody. All right. The next behavior that can be P in the dating pool is breadcrumbing. And breadcrumbing is giving just enough attention to keep someone interested without real commitment. And I found that when I feel like I'm being breadcrumbed, it's typically because the guy is entertaining multiple women at the same time, but he doesn't want to completely close the door on me because there may be something there. But, you just really have to determine what it is that you want in a dating situation. You may be okay with being one of many because, the guy may be one of many for you. It just depends on what you are willing to put up with in a dating situation. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to allow you to WYD and hello beautiful me to death. No, I'm not going to do it. Ooh, I hate them texts. But anyway, breadcrumbing also is the way I feel like men can be women too, but I can't speak from that perspective. They'll take your temperature to see what you will allow, and that is your opportunity to show them whether or not you are willing to accept crumbs as a full meal. Uh-oh. Ooh, that wasn't even in my notes. But anyway, also with breadcrumbing, you may find that someone will make some type of promise or perform a gesture when they feel like that they could be losing you. So they'll, throw you a bone, so to speak. But again, you have to let people know, listen, I'm a woman, not a bird. I don't want you or your crumbs. I like full meals and snacks over here. I don't do breadcrumbs. Okay? Okay. The next behavior that can be considered pee in the pool is love bombing. And love bombing is overwhelming someone with affection early on, only to pull back later. Now, I really haven't experienced this one, but I have heard about it. But I do feel that you really have to be careful with this one, because some people just love hard right out the gate, and it may not necessarily be they're not sincere. So that's why I believe, especially those who are believers or Christians, you really have to use your intuition or the Holy Spirit to be able to make these distinctions with some of you, because sometimes it's hard to be able to tell whether somebody is consistent or somebody is real or not, because you can fake, behavior for a few weeks. But like I said, a few episodes ago, crazy and foolish people don't hide themselves well. So eventually you will get the real person. Um, but yes, with love bombing, just think what a bomb is. It can be quiet. Most times when a bomb is launched, it's launched in an area that no one expects. So it really wreaks havoc on the area that it is launched into. So if you are really, really, really thirsty, for attention, you may make the mistake and mistake love bombing for real love when it is not. But I believe that anything can be validated by consistent effort over time. So if it's true, there will be no pulling back. The effort will be consistent and the actions will coincide with everything that the person has been saying. Okay? The next one is lack of effort. And simply put, lack of effort is when people expect instant connections without putting in work. And we've discussed this too on a previous episode, that relationships take work. There is, nothing you can do to get around it. At some point, in order to make the relationship flourish and move forward, effort has to be put into it by each person. Now, I have heard that, some guys don't like to plan dates. And sometimes this is interpreted by women as a lack of effort when that may not be the case. So you have to kind of gauge on what type of man that you're dealing with. But overall, if you see that he's not calling you, he's not trying to go out with you, he's not texting you, he's not offering any conversation to move the relationship forward, he's not trying to find out more about you, he's not interested, he's not doing the little small gestures, he doesn't show up with flowers, he's not listening to you, all of that is lack of effort, and it also means he's just not that into you. It's a clear sign that, girl, sir, just move on. They're truly not interested in you. Another behavior that can be considered P in the dating pool is dishonesty. The lies, the lies, the lies. I mean, people, woo, a liar will lie about anything, lie about age, lie about intentions, lie about their relationship status. And speaking of relationship status, I dated a guy and we will call him Wayne. I met Wayne, and I guess, it really wasn't love bombing at the beginning, but I will say he put it on real strong and made it seem like he was very intentional, and he was really interested in getting to know me and moving things forward. And in one of our very first few conversations, he was telling me that his divorce was about to be final, and he was just happy to be able to finally move on with his life. And, he was interested in, getting to know more about me and blah, blah, blah. Sounds good on paper. So we talked and ended up being in a relationship. And about, I would say, a year or so later, we were having a conversation and we had a moment of what I call intense fellowship, because I don't argue, but I will have a moment of intense fellowship. So I was talking to him about my dissatisfaction with the amount of time that we were spending together, meaning that we weren't spending a lot of time together. And I kind of felt that things weren't really going, in the direction that, I felt was conducive for me. And that I really felt like, we may want to consider, going our separate ways. And he was like, no, no, Ivy, I just got so much going on. And, I, got this going on at work, and I got this going on with my kids, and my divorce, the paperwork hasn't even been filed, and and he just kept going on. And I was like, what about your divorce? He was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I found out that my ex-wife, no, you mean your wife? I mean, my ex-wife, she didn't even file the divorce papers. And wait a minute. When I first met you, you told me that your divorce was about to be done with. Now I hear that it hasn't even been filed. And then he was like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no. I said, you got me out here being a side chick and I don't even know it. I said, I do not operate like that. I don't date married men. I was like, what is wrong with you? I said, you could have, if you were interested in being married, then if you weren't interested in being married, you could have filed a long time ago. You already told me y'all ain't have no assets. So what was the problem? And I was just like so freaking livid. And that day was the last day that I had anything to do with Wayne. I was just so outdone. My thing is, for me personally, if you are separated, you are still married. I don't care what anybody said. If those papers haven't been signed and submitted and validated, you are still married. And I do not date married men. Okay. But I'm sure there are a whole lot of people who will, but I'm just not one of them. And the thing about liars is they take away your ability to make an informed decision. Listen, I may have been cool with it. Just be honest with me and tell me, even though I would not have been cool with it, but still give me the ability to make an informed decision and don't decide for me by lying to me. I mean, that is just an absolute no. That is a behavior that I will not put up with under any circumstance. I would rather you hurt me and tell me the truth than deceive me with a lie. And that's just point blank, period. Nothing else needs to be added. Did y'all feel all that passion that I had, that discussion that I was talking while I was talking about that subject? Yeah, I just can't. I can't do the lies. I can do a lot of things, but lying is not one of them. All right, the last behavior that can be considered P in the dating pool is endless texting and no real plans. And this is simply someone who keeps chatting but never actually meets up. And I'm just like, to that I say we are too old and grown for that. I believe in the adage that you have to meet in real life sooner than later. Within a week or two, we need to FaceTime or video chat because I need to make sure that you're not catfishing me. I need to make sure that you look like the full representation of your picture. Don't be showing me no picture when you was in the ROTC in 1992 and we 59. No, sir. No, ma'am. Don't do that. Be a real representation of yourself. Okay. But I suggest, yes, meet sooner in real life. Because it takes the guesswork out and you can validate whether somebody is who they say that they are. So if the person isn't trying to really communicate with you consistently and really trying to see you, it's dead in the water from the beginning. Don't even waste your time with it. Okay. So those are some of the behaviors, some of the red flags and low effort things that I believe that exist in the dating pool that if you just pay attention, you will be able to identify them very quickly and save yourself from a lot of unnecessary heartache. Now that we've discussed the elements of the P in the dating pool, let's talk about how you can date without drowning in the mess. And the number one way that you can make sure that you're not drowning in the mess is by making sure you're not contributing to the pee in the pool. Okay. Um, in all transparency, if you are dating in 2025, these elements are inevitable or coming into contact with at least one of these things is inevitable. It's just the lay of the land. It's the culture of dating today. And I hate to say that, but it is what it is. But I believe that there are several things that you can do that will make it most or less likely that you will engage in these behaviors as often as some other people who are not as aware. And the very first thing is to know who you are. And I may have said this before, but I can't drive this point home enough. If you don't know who you are, how in the world are you going to be able to show up for others? And if you're trying to date somebody and you don't know who you are, you will have the tendency to become what you think the other person needs, which will not allow you to show up as your authentic self. Listen, you cannot give anybody else anything other than yourself. So let's start out the gate and be who you are. And if you don't know who you are, let's put the pause on break on dating, get you some counseling, go to therapy, figure your own stuff out before you try to bring somebody else into the equation. I think that is the most mature thing that you can do for yourself to make sure that you're healthy before you bring somebody else into your personal space. The second thing you can do is once you know yourself, you can filter out the nonsense early on. It is so important that you set clear intentions from the beginning. Be upfront about what you are looking for, but don't scare nobody off now. Just certain things, I don't know. I don't think you should bring up like at the very beginning because it can be a turn off. I was just actually looking on one of my Facebook single groups today, and this guy posted that by date number 2, he need to know what your credit score is and what your finances are before, he can proceed in dating. And I'm like, dude, I'm not discussing my finances with you or nobody else on date 2. I don't even know if I like you or not. I don't even know who you are. I may not even know your middle name. Why in the world am I sharing such personal information with you? And I don't even know if this is going to work. So there are just certain things that, I'm not going to share with you straight off the top. And that's just me. Other people may be a little bit more open than I am, but I believe as a woman, especially, I have to be protective with the information that I share. And my finances will not be one of them, especially on date number 2. So, along with filtering out the nonsense early on, when you're upfront about what you're looking for, I believe you set yourself up to date intentionally. And intentional dating really doesn't have anything to do with the other person. It is about your focus, what you want out of dating. And when you find what you believe that what you're looking for, you'll be more intentional about going after what it is that you're looking for. So I believe you have to definitely make those things known about, your focus, your goals, what you want out of dating, and what you need from the other person. Also, be able to spot red flags early on. And I believe the red flag discussion is a discussion that has to be separate, because some things y'all calling red flags are not red flags. So I want to make sure in the future to do a episode just on red flags. But if someone is inconsistent, if they're flaky, if they're playing games, move on. Don't, try to question it. Don't try to define it. Just move on. I believe when someone is truly interested in you and want to see things move forward, they will do what they feel they need to do because they've listened to you and they know what you desire and what you say you deserve. Then they'll do those things in order to pursue you. Okay. And I believe, and listen to this very, very, very closely. I believe that you can be intentional. I believe you can spot red flags early. I believe you can filter out the nonsense early when your vision isn't obstructed by your own brokenness. Mm, mm, mm. Amen, church. Listen, let me say that again. I believe that you can spot red flags early. I believe you can be intentional about dating. I believe that you can be upfront with what you're looking for. I believe you can set clear intentions. I believe you can filter out nonsense when your vision isn't obstructed by your own brokenness. Healed people move different. Listen, healed people move very, very differently. Listen, get healed. That's all I can say. And lastly, be confident and enjoy this process instead of dreading it. Listen, dating does not have to be as difficult as we make it. We make it more difficult than it has to be. Listen, keep your boundaries strong. Don't tolerate bad behavior just because you're lonely. Stand true to what you believe, especially if you are a Christian and you're trying to date God's way. Hold fast to your beliefs and your boundaries, and don't, change your mind or adjust just because a potential may want to see you do something differently. No, be who you are regardless of who you entertain. And I know that there's this whole, hookup culture that's out there now, and all people want to do is hook up and screw and have sex and that be it. No, you do not have to fall prey to whatever culture is deeming is popular, or if you're not doing it, then you're not going to ever be married. The devil is a liar. We don't adjust to what the world does. The world needs to adjust to what we do. Amen. All right, I'm going a little churchy today, but I feel like it's in me because we really have to hold up a standard regardless of what the situation looks like. You know, God is going to be God. He's the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And his standards doesn't change. The Bible doesn't change. You know, salvation doesn't change. None of that changes. So we don't change. We hold fast to what we believe and what we have faith in, and it is what it is. Get on board or get out the way. Those are the only choices you have when dealing with someone who is a proclaimed believer and who is a believer that walks it out. Okay? And lastly, the last thing I want to say is every date is not a potential mate. One more time. Every date is not a potential mate. Listen, it's okay to get excited about going out on dates and meeting new people. It's all good, but not to the point where, ooh, I think I met my husband tonight. Girl, you don't even know his name, his middle name. You don't know who his mama is or his daddy is, his people is. You don't know how he was raised. You don't know anything. You just going off of one conversation. Going back to what I said at the beginning, enjoy the process. Don't try to move too fast, okay? And that, my good people, brings us to the end of this week's episode. I hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed it. Just to recap, today we talked about those bad behaviors and red flags that are VP in the dating pool and the things that keep us from identifying, connecting, and creating those healthy connections from the very beginning. We also got into how to date without drowning in the mess. And the key to that is making sure you are not contributing to the pee that's already in the dating pool. Listen, I want to hear from you, but before then, I got a little bit ahead of myself. I want you to reflect on today's topic by asking yourself the following question. What pee in the dating pool have you encountered, and how did you handle it? I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your feedback. It has been amazing, constructive feedback is also welcome. I want you to share your stories with me. I want you to share your topic ideas. Please feel free to follow me on social media. You can get me on Instagram at the only Ivy Ashley. Also, you can email me at consultiva@gmail.com. And please tune in next week where my topic will be the truth about being unequally yoked. We are going to get into that topic. And I know already that some of you saints might be mad at me, but guess what? You will be okay. You have been in tune to the Powder Room podcast, where we discover the message within our messes. And I am your host, Ivy Ashley. Until next week, be blessed.